friends, this is Eric the Mind Control Guy. Ever since the delightful Miss Connie Willis had me on her show, and I did not request to be on her show. I've never requested to be on anybody's show, and I'm just kind of, I use the moniker name, and I'm just kind of here, you know, out here in obscurity. And I was calling Miss Willis when she was guest hosting on Coast to Coast AM, that I remembered this certain thing happened, and didn't have anything to do with the projects back in those days. It had to do with something else. I had saw something strange, and I had a camera with me, and I took some pictures, forgot about it. Later on, a whole box of film disappeared. Anyway, I had asked Miss Willis if she had anything similar like that happen, and she acknowledged that she did. She asked me about my moniker name. I kind of told her about that she wanted me on the show. Great. And now I'm getting calls on a regular basis. People want me on their shows. After 18 years of people just dismissing me, or not even wanting to hear it, because it's too traumatizing. Some find it just unbelievable. They don't want to believe it ever happened. Including professional psychologists and psychiatrists. People don't want to believe this kind of stuff ever happened. And all these people throughout the many decades who did not know each other end up telling the same types of stories. They vary. I understand that. Not every twisted doctor is going to do the exact same tests on everybody. But anyway, and really it doesn't have, it can, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with what happened to myself and a number of other people, two of which are people I've talked to who themselves are actual MK Ultra survivors. And of course me, I was the mind-altering research study. And then I meet people out here who've, you know, been through the same kind of things. But anyway, what I was basically trying to get at is I was contacted recently by somebody who was telling me about a situation, and they don't know really how to handle this for the person they know that had a problem and how to handle this. My best advice for anybody who, of course, you know, went through what I went through, and the others, that's just, you know, stuff they make horror movies out of. But somebody who, say, has survivor syndrome, say they were in, without going into, you know, graphic detail about the real wild stuff out there, like say somebody was in a bus crash, say they were in school, and say the bus was going to a ball game or something, and then something happened, a tire blew out, or they were hit by a drunk driver, whatever the case was, and the bus rolled over, crashed, and everybody on that bus died except them. The bus driver died, you know, 40, 50 people on the bus, they all died, you're the only survivor. And you're just an absolute mess. Why did I survive? Survivor syndrome is not easy to deal with. I know. I've had it twice. It's not fun. Or, you know, somebody who had an extremely bad childhood, abusive childhood, somebody who was beaten without mercy for no reason, somebody who was in a marriage who was just verbally, mentally, physically abused for no justifiable reason. Somebody who was in combat for the troops out there. Somebody who was in combat and maybe you're only one of 3 survivors that came back. Or maybe you're the only survivor out of an entire platoon or entire company that made it back. I was in, when I was in the service and I was at Bragg, one of our warrant officers, Chief Legs was his name, he had been in the 9th ID Infantry Division. And he had told me that when he was in NAM, he was one of 3 guys out of, I can't remember if it was a whole platoon or an entire company. He was one of 3 guys that made it back. And, you know, having to just deal with that every day until you completely have it blocked out or forgot about it. That you're one of only just a few people that made it back. That's really hard on the head. You know, somebody who, say, was doing everyday shopping or at the bank or something like that, and next thing you know, there is a robbery or a mass shooting, and you're one of the people that survived it, and you get to see all that blood and gore and death, and you're just having a hard time with it. Some people end up turning to alcohol to try and bury it, or other things to try and bury it. And or something bad happens, a little girl or a little boy, you know, ends up being, you know, raped or molested, whichever term you want to use, by a person in a position of trust. And one day they're a happy-go-lucky kid, next thing they're bitter, they're angry, they're lashing out, and they refuse to tell anybody what happened. You know, we can't deal with you if you don't open up and tell us what happened, and they won't tell. So, when I started getting my memories back, being that I drive professionally for a living, I've driven professionally for a living for over 30 years. When I start having flashbacks, I really can't write it down, and I'm in a position to stop on the side of the road and write it down. And writing it down anyway just doesn't work for me. So what I did, and what I would suggest to anybody who's having any of these kind of head problems with something that happened to you, something you witnessed, something you survived, regardless of what it is, and you don't want to talk to anybody about it, you want to get it off your chest, but you won't say anything. My best suggestion is do what I did. Get a little handheld tape recorder, whether it be regular cassette tapes or that ones that are small and have the small cassette tapes, which is what I used to carry. Carry that around with you. Some folks carry fanny packs. Me, I used to wear this cut-off vest all the time, and I just kept it in my pocket. And whenever I would have a bad head trip, or a better yet, whenever I was having flashbacks, after the stuff came through, and then that particular memory was over with, I would grab my tape recorder, and I already had it queued up. I did the test and all that, and I had grabbed the tape recorder, I pushed record, had the volume up, I would give the time and the date this memory came back, and then I would just talk it out, because sometimes it's easier to talk it out than to write it out. And whenever it had ended, I ended with the time and the date, and then I hit stop. Sometimes I used to get several in a row, and of course I was always by myself, and because the people that are having these problems of what happened to them at one time in their life, or something they witnessed, or whatever the case is, and they won't talk about it or anything like that, it's like, well, you're not helping anybody, you sure as hell ain't helping yourself. It's like a pressure cooker. You gotta get that steam out of there, or the pressure cooker's gonna blow. So you gotta hit the relief valve and let that steam out. And it's building up in here, and if you don't let that pressure out, it's gonna cause you and everybody around you a whole bunch of problems, especially when you snap. And so if you get yourself in your own little world, whether it be in your car, or your bedroom, or even if you're out at the lake or at the river, just sitting out there by yourself, or go sitting in the woods for that matter, anywhere you want where it's just you and your tape recorder and your memories. Not want to carry an extra set of batteries if you got to record quite a bit. Carry 1 or 2 extra tapes unless you got to change tapes fairly frequently, because your memories are rather long. But my suggestion to you, regardless of what your problems are, you don't want to discuss it to anybody. If you're by yourself and you get get you a tape recorder and you hit the button and just start recording. That way you're not keeping it suppressed, you're letting it out. But you're letting it out on your own time, in your own way. And once you do that, it can very well be easier for you to deal with. So when you're around your loved ones and whatnot, so you want to know what's wrong with me? As soon as I leave the room, hit play on the tape player. Go ahead. Go ahead and hit play. I'm going to be in the other room, or I'm going to go somewhere. When I get back, then we'll talk, if you're able to. But once you get it off your chest, it would be easier for you to talk about it with other people. But you got to get it off your chest your own way. And my personal experience is that's the best way to get it off your chest. Some people like writing. Well, some people can't spell that great. So, but we all can say these words. We all can speak. Best way is to record what you remember, and then if need be, write it down later. But I just, after somebody reached out to me, I reached back out to them, told them what I did, and it worked for me. And hopefully, if you do it this way, it'll work for you too. That's my suggestion. Take care, friends. This is Eric, the Mind Control Guy, signing off.